Hey everyone, welcome back. I am doing a follow-up to a video I did about a month or two ago called The Day in the Life of Running My Online Boutique. In that video I mentioned that I would do a Q&A if people had any questions that they wanted me to address, and I have gotten quite a few questions since then on social media, in the comments, and message to me. So I'm going to address some of the most common ones that I got right now in this video. If there's anything else that I missed, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I'll either answer it for you there or we will do a second video. So let's get started. Okay, so excuse me looking at my phone during this video. That's where I have all the questions. So first, in case this is the first video that you've ever seen, I'm just going to give you a quick background on me and my business. I own an online clothing store called Boutqiue, and I started that business about 1.5 years ago. We sell women's clothing, accessories, and gifts, and I started that business while living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and operated the business pretty much solely online while doing occasional events around the Metroplex during that time. We recently moved, which is why it's taken me so long to get this video up, but more on that later. Okay, so the first question is, when did you start your business and how did you get the idea? It has always been a dream of mine since as long as I can remember, probably high school days or earlier, that I wanted to have a clothing store, my own boutique, but that was something I always saw as something I could do later in life once I had some more stability. I didn't see it as something that I was going to get to do this young, but with the growth of online shopping and online stores, you know, I saw that as an opportunity of something that I could do quicker, something I could do sooner in life with a lot less capital investment, and something that I could do on the side and see how I could get it to grow while still working and bringing in an income. So that is what I did. And in terms of how did I get the idea, like I said, it has always been a dream of mine, and many people don't realize that in college, for the first few years of college, I actually was declared as a double major in business marketing and fashion merchandising. However, at our school, those degrees were in completely different colleges, although, you know, they used a lot of the same principles and were very related. You know, they were in different colleges, which meant every single credit was different and very few of them overlapped, which meant if I really did want to graduate with that double major, it was going to take me like 6 years. So as I got further into college, I decided to drop the double major and stick with marketing because I thought you could use that degree either way. And I ended up graduating with a degree in marketing with minors in advertising and fashion merchandising. So I took all those classes in college, and that's something that's always been on my radar. You know, I had dreams to be a buyer after college, and, you know, it's kind of cool because while I never took that path career-wise, that I get to do that for myself now. Okay, next question is, when did you start your business? So I think I mentioned this at the beginning, but I started this business about 1.5 years ago, and prior to, I mean, I'd been dreaming about it for a couple years prior to that, you know, taking it to the online side, but I'd been prepping for it for probably about 3 to 6 months prior to actually launching. Okay, well, the next question is, how long did it take you to get started? So, like I mentioned, it was something that was on my radar, and I was kind of, you know, planning in the back of my head, but, you know, never knew when I was going to take the jump. Once I made the firm decision that this was something I was going to do, I looked at the market schedule and said, I'm going to base my launch date on the market schedule. So sometime in late 2015, I was looking at the market schedule and decided that I was going to attend January market and therefore launch my business at the start of 2016, which is what I did. So that's when I started, and it took several months. So before you can get your business started, you know, the obvious has to occur. You have to apply and be granted a tax ID and business license from your state. The needs of each state are different. I got my initial license in Texas, and I just reapplied to get my new license in New Mexico, and it was actually a much simpler and quicker process in New Mexico, so it really depends on your state. In New Mexico, I was granted my new tax ID instantly, whereas in Texas, it took quite a while. So with trying to meet my January market date, I kept that in mind, and I had to apply for my tax ID in 2015 at the end of the year to hope and get it in time for January market. And then from there, like I said, I was trying to make January market, and that's where I bought the bulk of my starting inventory, was at Dallas Market Center. But It's very hard to buy ready to ship inventory at market. So I went to every single vendor and said, show me a ready to ship, and got as much as I could. And then that inventory started rolling in within the next couple weeks. So it took several weeks, even after shopping market, to get any inventory in my hands. Once I had about 80% of the total inventory that I had ordered in my possession is when I knew that I could pick a launch date. And from there, I picked a launch date and I went with it. So that's kind of how long it took me to get started. It was all based on shopping patterns and shopping market. I know people who have done it differently and they've done all their buying online. I think that's another question, but all I'm gonna say for this for now is I cannot recommend going to market enough, especially if you are opening a brand new store. That's your best bet, hands down. Okay, so overall, how long did it take me to get started with all that information? I'd say a couple months ramp up time. And it totally depends if you're going totally online. I think you can do it in a shorter period of time. If you're trying to open a brick and mortar or a mobile boutique, it's going to take you a lot longer because you have to get the space ready, which I did not have to do. One of the questions is actually, what was it like getting started? And honestly, it was a really exciting and fun process for me. Obviously, it was scary because I had no clue if I was going to sell a single thing. So I obviously made a personal investment to buy the initial set of inventory, and I knew it was something I had to do because I knew it was something I wouldn't stop thinking about if I didn't do it. So it was kind of one of those things where I knew I just needed to give it a try, and if it didn't work, it didn't work. But it still was scary. I didn't know what was going to sell, if anything was going to sell, if I literally was going to sit and never have an order and be stuck with all these clothes. But also it was an incredibly exciting time, you know, just to be excited about something that I was finally, you know, doing that I'd wanted to do for a long time. And like I mentioned, going to market for the first time was so overwhelming and not scary, but very overwhelming and whatnot. But it was also one of the coolest things. And every time I walk into a market center, I get overwhelmed with this like awesome feeling because it is the coolest place. And it kind of just makes me feel like, oh yeah, this is something I've always wanted to do, and this is why I love this. So it definitely is scary and nerve-wracking, but if it's something that you've been thinking about for a long time and been dreaming about, then you kind of have to just go for it. So that's kind of what it was like getting started. Okay, so one of the questions is, where do I get my product? So I would say I get 80 to 90% of my product from market. I really can't recommend that enough, especially if you're new, because there's something to be said about getting to meet all the vendors, getting to kind of get a feel for their overall style, their quality, get to touch and feel each product and see it in person, especially in the beginning. There's some vendors I found my very first trip to market that I still shop with regularly. There's a couple I bought something from once and I've never shopped with them again because I don't like their customer service or their quality or whatever it might be. So getting a feel for your vendors at market gives you the opportunity to shop with them online or through line sheets when you're in a pinch and you just need more stuff. But I really recommend shopping at market as often as you can. Now, I understand you can't always shop at market, and most people don't, but that really is your best option, especially for getting the bulk of your inventory. Did you work while doing this, or is this your full-time job? So I did mention in one of my videos that this is not my full-time job. I do work outside of doing the boutique, and that was by design. When I launched it, like I said, I had no idea if it was going to work, if I was going to sell anything. So I wanted to make sure I was doing it on the side and keeping my full-time job to make sure I had an income and I wasn't putting it all on this. And I'm not upset that I did that. And I think it was the right decision because I wasn't relying on it for income in the beginning. Everything I made, I could put back into inventory to expand my inventory. And I just kept putting it back in the business, which if it's, you know, your sole source of income, you obviously can't do that, which means, you know, you're going to grow at a slower pace, which, you know, sometimes you have to do that. But because it was not my sole source of income, I was able to do it that way. And I think people's biggest question is, how can I do this and work full time? And sometimes it's not easy, but like I said, I started very, very small. So at that point in time, it was very easy for me. You know, I did it in the mornings and at night and on weekends. You know, I came home and any orders that came in during the day, I packed them, got them ready to ship. And if it was before 5 o'clock, then I shipped them off. If not, I shipped them off in the morning, and got ready to do it all over again. And, you know, I typically shopped markets on, you know, I would either take a Friday off or I'd shop the weekend. And And same with events. I only would sign up for weekend events, typically Saturdays. So it was, you know, kind of like my, while I don't consider this my hobby, I do consider it a business. You know, I was able to fit it into my life like a hobby, while working full time. So, you know, instead of spending all my time watching TV, I would spend time doing stuff for the store. On that note, I have worked full time for the last year and a half while running this store, and I am trying to make a change since we just moved. For those of you that don't know, we just moved, and so I'm going to use that hopefully as an opportunity to take on a part-time job instead of a full-time job, which will allow me to get a little bit of income and work on the store more and build it some more. Because while it can be done to do this while working full-time, you know, it's very obvious. You can't put in part-time hours and expect a full-time income. That's not how it works. So you get out what you put in. And, you know, I've been putting in part-time hours and getting out part-time income, which has been fine up until this point, but I'd really like to grow this a little bit. So I'm going to try and go part-time and spend more time doing the store and see how that goes. A bunch of people always ask me, do I design the clothes or make the clothes? And I think I've basically already addressed that when I say that I buy them from wholesalers at market. I don't make them. Shipping. A lot of people asked how I handle shipping, and there's so many options now, but I have an automated shipping system that's hooked up to my website. So I can go in, and if somebody places an order, I can go right into my shipping system. It asks me to tell the shipping system how much their package weighs. I input it, tells me how much it costs. I buy the label and print the labels, and I do my own packaging. So I do my own mailers. I don't use flat rate envelopes or anything like that, or boxes. I use my own mailers. And when I drop them off at the post office, I just have to drop them off. They're already paid for. There's a lot of automated shipping system options like that. You just kind of have to pick the one that integrates best with your website or whatever it is you're doing. I'm pretty sure PayPal has their own version of what I use. So if you invoice through PayPal, you can do your shipping labels through PayPal, and it's set up pretty similar if you do it that way. And there's quite a lot of options. One is plans for the future, and this is obviously always an exciting question because I'm always dreaming. And just because I dream, it doesn't mean it can happen right away. You know, the inventory has to be at a certain point for certain things. My income has to be at a certain point for certain things, and you know, things have to fall in line for certain things. So some of my plans for the future are actually happening right now. One of the things is when we moved, I wanted to hold a pop-up shop in a vacant storefront, and I just got the okay on that a couple days ago. It's going to be hosted in a week and a half. So I leased a vacant storefront in a shopping center that has lots of great stores, and it's a great location. And to be honest, I negotiated so that it was something that I could afford. And I leased it for about a week, and I'm going to hold the pop-up shop for several days and see how it goes. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because customers, as much as they like to shop online, there are certain customers that just really want to come in and see the clothes and touch and feel, and I totally get that. And I want to, you know, hopefully meet and expand into my new market and meet a lot of the locals and hopefully gain some new customers and some more exposure in the area. In terms of other plans for the future, I want to see how this pop-up goes, and if it goes well, I want to continue doing something like that. People ask me all the time if I'm going to open a brick and mortar shop, and honestly, that is not something on my horizon right now. Not to say it's not something I won't do, but I know I'm not to that point yet. It is a huge thing to take on to open a storefront. I'm in a group full of boutique owners, and you know, we share our experiences. And, you know, they're very transparent about that. And it's a huge cost, and it's a huge amount of time, and, you know, it's a big deal to open a storefront. So while that's on my mind, it's not something I'm planning to do anytime soon. I want to continue over the next year and hopefully do pop-ups and events in my new area. I have some events on the horizon that I'd like to do in the next year, and I'm going to see how that goes and see if I can keep promoting online sales and see if we can work from there. Okay, and then this is the question I'm going to end with because it's very broad and it was asked the most, just in different ways. How do you promote or market your business? So I would say, obviously, promotions and marketing and getting the word out there is the hardest part about owning a business, especially a new business. And honestly, I think especially an online business, because you know, nobody's going to walk by your online store and just say, let's pop in. So it's all about getting people to your site and driving traffic there, and driving traffic to your social media so that they know to go to your site. They know when you have new arrivals, and it is always a struggle. And in the ever-changing world of technology and social media right now, there's no straight answer to this. Marketing and promoting your business, especially on an online business, is a touch and go, trial and error process. And that's all I can tell you. You have to figure out what works for you and your business, depending on who your target market is, who you're trying to reach, and how you're trying to reach them. And you have to keep adapting. The social media algorithms constantly changing does not make it easy to constantly reach your customers on social media. But you have to keep trying. And the things I've done is I've promoted online, I've promoted on social media, I've promoted in person, I've promoted at events, I've participated in events, I've met people, I've networked, and it's an ever-growing game. You know, in order to keep this business going, I have to keep promoting and keep reaching new people and finding new customers. That's one of the things I'm doing with the pop-up, in hopes of promoting to my new local area and, you know, making them aware of my business, because while I do have a huge customer base already here, there's so many people that don't even know my business exists. So yeah, you gotta find what works for you, and a lot of that is gonna come down to who your target market is, what kind of things you're selling, and where you're trying to sell them. A lot of people who sell more Western items are going to be really successful trying to promote through rodeo and fairs. If you sell more craft items, you're going to be more successful promoting at craft fairs and things like that. If you make your products, you're going to be more successful promoting on Etsy than, you know, others. So it's really trial and error, and it's really up to you to try and figure out what's the best way to promote your business. And keep trying, because that's what I struggle with every day. I try and come up with new ways to reach people and to promote the business. Okay, so I already feel like I've answered a ton of questions, and that was super long-winded, and this is going to be a really long video. So I'm going to stop it. I answered some of your guys' questions that I've been getting. So if by chance I did not answer your question, or you have a new question, or if you're new here and yeah, you have another question, just drop it below in the comments, or feel free to message me and I'll get back to you, or maybe we'll be doing part 2 of this. I'm also hoping with the upcoming pop-up that I can document a little bit of that and do kind of a vlog style of our first pop-ups. So stay tuned for that. Bye guys.